Excited to be joined now by our Patriots reporter. He's one of the best in the business at what he does. ESPN's Mike Reiss joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And Mike, it's somewhat prophetic that we talk about making the switch in that read into you, because that's exactly what a lot of people are wondering. The hell happened on Super Bowl Sunday when they made the switch, Mike, to not play Malcolm Butler one defensive snap. A guy who played 98% of the defensive snaps in the regular season, and then you see Nick Foles throw for 370 plus and 3 touchdowns. What happened? What more can you tell us about why Malcolm Butler was not on the field except for one punt coverage?
Yeah, I'm still digging on, the answer to the question. What I can tell you is that when we caught up with Malcolm Butler after the game, and I was there with Adam Schefter, as Malcolm Butler made this long walk from the locker room to the team buses, and you could just see it in his face, the emotion, the hurt, as he made this long walk. And finally, he just sort of, at first didn't want to talk about anything, and then he just let it out. You remember what he said. He said, they gave up on me, and then he said, I could have changed that game. So he was hurt. He didn't know why he didn't play. He had speculated that, maybe he wasn't playing well or they didn't feel comfortable. But as he walked to the bus himself at Super Bowl Sunday after that game, he was at a loss to explain it himself. He didn't know.
I mean, listen, they're obvious. Nobody is buying this, right, Mike? Nobody's buying that they're just putting the best guy on the field that they think can win when this guy's played 98% of the snaps, which means he's played in a lot of different packages and sub-packages on defense. So isn't it just a matter of time? We're already hearing the reports that he missed curfew. In your dealing, let's just go with that for a second. Your dealings with that team with Bill Belichick, we know if you don't show up to practice on time, even in a blizzard, just go home or don't even bother showing up. But would it be a situation if you miss curfew in a situation like that, he would just not play you in the game?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a plausible scenario. What I want to do is be fair to Malcolm Butler, because there's a lot of speculation out there and, but not a lot of credible facts in terms of someone, putting their name on the record and saying this is what it is. I know that might be hard in this situation. It's probably a combination of a lot of factors. And, the one thing I would say from a football perspective, like if you want to look at what they did football-wise, it was a 2-corner game. I mean, I don't think they ran one play in the game with like their pure nickel package with 3 corners. So that's the first part of it. They went big nickel, so it was a lot of safeties in the game. So that played into it a little bit from a football perspective, but from a non-football perspective, your instincts tell you something had to have happened. He arrived at the Super Bowl one day later than the team. He had an illness. He said he went to the hospital. One question I have as a reporter, was that late arrival excused? We don't know that. We're taking Malcolm Butler's word for that right now. So I'm digging on that to see if maybe that had a factor in the decision. Was there anything else during Super Bowl week that happened that led to this decision? When did players find out? I'm hearing a lot of conflicting stories on that, and so it's sort of hard here to get to the truth right now. Some more time needed.
All right, we'll let you keep digging. Mike Reiss is our Patriots reporter here. Mike, I guess an overall question with Butler before we move on to other topics is, have there been issues that you've heard of between him and the team in the past that would lead up to some sort of culmination point that maybe there was a straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah, and it's a great question, Trey, because this is going back to 2014 now when he came in as an undrafted free agent out of West Alabama. And I wouldn't say that it's just issues. I think, Malcolm Butler has always sort of, put the team first in terms of his performance, and he represents a lot of what the team is all about. But behind the scenes, I would say, you have captains like a Devin McCourty and a Duron Harmon in that defensive backfield that are pretty steady on a day-to-day basis in terms of their showing up and they're going through everything that Bill Belichick asked for. I think other players sometimes they require a little extra attention in those type of areas, and maybe that would be something that that category Malcolm Butler falls into. And just in terms of a day-to-day reliability, there might be a little more volatility there. That's not to say anything about the character of the player, what he represents. So maybe there were some things there with Malcolm Butler where it required a little more attention in terms of the details of what Bill Belichick asked for on a daily basis.
Well, to finish up on Malcolm Butler, and then we'll wait to hear if there's more info. You don't think there's any way he's an unrestricted free agent, so you think he's going to be gone?
Well, I asked him, Mike, after the game, and did you hear his response? He said, "I ain't Miss Cleo, so I can't tell the future." But it's hard for me to imagine that he would be back with the Patriots, that he would want to be back with the Patriots. I mean, you saw his emotion during the national anthem to not play in the Super Bowl on defense after 4 years with the team here and everything. He sort of spilled his heart for the team. It's hard for me to imagine he would want to be back here.
There's so many more layers to this story that we hope we'll try and figure out what it is. But look, if there was some sort of discipline on one level, you have to sort of respect Bill for being able to pull that cord at the Super Bowl, and you could make an argument that it really cost the team. On the other hand, it's like, okay, it's about winning. It's all about winning, and we got one more game to try and win. Let's see if we can put our best people out there. We'll see what happens. We'll leave that one there, and Mike, we'll let you and other people try and see if we can figure out exactly what the reason's there. But there are some other things to talk about with this team, and we have the announcement that Matt Patricia is the new head coach of the Detroit Lions. Mike, is there any reason why we haven't heard that Josh McDaniels has been announced as the new head coach of the Colts yet?
I would say that's probably more just semantics, and that's coming, and no turning back now, unless there was something way out, in left field. But no, I would expect that to happen probably today, if not tomorrow. And the Patriots and McDaniels, as I understand it, Trey, are moving forward with that being the scenario that's unfolding here. And I don't believe that's really ever been in question, at least over the last week or so since he had that last meeting with Jim Irsay coming to town with Chris Ballard to meet with McDaniels personally. And I think once that happened, it was solidified and he was moving forward.
How about the rest of the coaches? Dante Scarnecchia, is he moving on? He came back to help this team. And then other assistants that may go with either Patricia or with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike, because I'll tell you, Scarnecchia is the offensive line coach, and he's going to turn 70 on February 14th. So he's obviously close to the end here, and he actually had retired. He came back after 2 years away to coach, and he's a key guy for them. He talked at the Super Bowl about saying, I'm going to make a decision after the Super Bowl. I don't want to get into the future, but he sort of hinted that he would be open to coming back, and my sense would be that Bill Belichick, who Scarnecchia has great respect for, might lean on him a little bit and say, hey, can I get one more year out of you? I have a transition here on the offensive side with Josh McDaniels leaving. I might need you. So keeping an eye on that. Joe Judge, their special teams coordinator, we know how much Bill Belichick values special teams, is in the last year of his contract here, so he's sort of a free agent. We have to keep an eye on him because with McDaniels going to Indy, Patricia going to Detroit, there's going to be some options for him. So they could technically lose their top three coaches here if Joe Judge leaves as well.
Mike Reiss with us, our Patriots reporter. And along those lines, before we get to some other topics, just so people understand how significant it is to lose both your coordinators, maybe your O-line coach, and maybe a couple of other people. The last time, Mike, we saw the Patriots go through something like this significant in one off season, was after Super Bowl 39, ironically, also against the Eagles, where they lost Romeo Crennel, their defensive coordinator, and Charlie Weiss, their offensive coordinator, and it took them 10 years to win another Super Bowl. Now, obviously, they went to a couple and lost to the Giants, but it does take something out of you when you have so many people that you've been around for so long and suddenly they're all walking out the door, right?
No question. And then you look at how Bill Belichick's going to proceed, Trey, and one name that's sort of popping up here that we got to keep an eye on is Greg Schiano, who we know how close he is with him. And why I think this is important is that if Bill Belichick does bring in Schiano, as has been rumored in some circles, it would also help him fill out the rest of his staff, because Schiano has his own network of coaches, that he can sort of bring with him, or some coaches that might come with him if that goes as proceeds there. So no doubt, these guys have been in the system. They know they they sort of speak like Belichick. You talk to some assistant coaches that come in, they say it's almost like, they know the Belichick language, and so when you lose that, you sort of have to reboot, and maybe that can re-energize them in a little bit as they move forward.
So we're talking about coaching staffs here. How about players? I mean, Brady, I know he was asked, and he said, listen, it's 15 minutes after the game. I don't think anybody believes he's not coming back. Gronk was an interesting one. As far as asked about his future, and for as fun-loving as Gronk is, that was one of the more serious answers I think he gave. Do you think there is any reason to believe he may not be back next year?
Mike, I'm going to give you my read on that. When I heard that, my first thought is, he's under contract for 2 more years. He's due to make $8 million in base salary for 2018, and he's due to make $9 million in salary for 2019. And when I heard that, my first thought was maybe that's the first sort of statement to say, hey, maybe that contract needs to be addressed here. First team All-Pro, feeling a little bit undervalued, and maybe that's making me not want to, run back here and play in 2018. So a lot of raw emotion right after the Super Bowl. I would be surprised if Gronkowski isn't back, but maybe that was a subtle sort of hint from him to the team to say, we might have to have a discussion here about that contract, before we're coming back here in 2018.
So you think it's more financial related than actually thinking about walking away?
That was my thought, and it's just speculation. I feel like he's at the top of his game. To walk away at the top of his game, and he seems to be having a great time with it. And he embraced being a captain here with the Patriots. So that would be my first thought. But again, just more of a feeling from being around him than anything I would know for sure.
Mike Reiss is with us, our Patriots reporter. Mike, the only thing that would give me a little pause about that is I don't know if you saw the entire exchange. When someone first asked him about it, his response was, well, how did you hear about that? In other words, Clearly this was something that he had been discussing with someone that he believed was close to him or in confidence, and he was kind of surprised that the idea of him thinking about retirement got out there.
Yep, and I did see that, and that's very fair, and so it's not something I would dismiss out of hand. At the same time, Trey, I'm sitting there thinking it's literally right after the Super Bowl. They've been through the grind for 8 months, and it almost felt like it was pushing fast forward here. Give them a little time. Sometimes your emotions are high after a game like that, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. But that was my first thought when I heard it.
Yeah, it was just interesting the way he answered the question as opposed to Tom, who said, yeah, look, it's 15 minutes after the game, but absolutely I'm coming back. There's no reason to believe that I won't. Just the whole semantics and the way their body language, everything was completely different about those two answers. Mike, it's never an off season for you, so you have some off season homework to do, and we always look forward to hearing your reports. And thanks for being with us this morning.